Her parents abandoned her as a child until the billionaire widower with 3 kids took her in. Emily Johnson woke up with an aching body on the cold bench of Union Square in New York City. It had been 3 weeks since she'd slept on the streets after losing her last job as a cleaner. The few coins she managed to collect from begging barely bought her a bagel a day. That's when she felt a gentle hand touch her shoulder. Opening her eyes, she saw a well-dressed man in a dark suit accompanied by 3 children staring at her curiously. Emily's heart raced when she recognized those familiar brown eyes. Emily Johnson?" the man asked uncertainly. She quickly tried to straighten up, running her hands through her messy blonde hair and attempting to hide the tears in her dirty blouse. How could it be him, after all these years? "Mr. Michael?" she whispered in disbelief. Michael Anderson smiled sadly, confirming her suspicions. This was indeed the Emily who had cared for him as a child, back when his parents hired a nanny to look after him during their constant business trips. "Daddy, who is she?" asked Emma, his eldest daughter at 11, tugging at the sleeve of his blazer. "She's an old friend, Emma." Michael hesitated, visibly shaken by Emily's condition. The middle child, 9-year-old Ethan, held hands with his younger sister, 6-year-old Lily. All 3 wore impeccable school uniforms and carried expensive backpacks. Emily felt her chest tighten. The contrast between those children's lives and her own childhood was stark. She remembered perfectly the 7-year-old boy who used to comfort her when she cried in the bathroom of her employer's house. "I'm sorry, Mr. Michael, I shouldn't be here." Emily tried to stand, but her legs trembled. "Wait, Emily. Are you okay? When was the last time you ate?" Michael crouched beside her, ignoring his expensive suit touching the dirty bench. "I'm fine, thank you," she lied, clinging to the last shreds of her dignity. The children moved closer, and Lily whispered something in her father's ear that Emily couldn't hear. Michael nodded and looked back at her. "Emily, you may not remember me well, but I remember you very clearly. You took care of me from age 7 to 10. You taught me to tie my shoelaces, comforted me when I had nightmares." Emily's eyes filled with tears. Of course she remembered. Michael had been the only light in her dark days in that house where she worked to support herself after her parents abandoned her. "You were only 17 when you started working at our house," Michael continued. "You were practically a child yourself." "Daddy, she's crying," Ethan observed with a child's sensitivity. "Why is she sad, Daddy?" Lily stepped even closer, her blue eyes full of concern. Michael took a deep breath. How could he explain to his children that life wasn't always fair? That the woman who once cared for him now needed care herself? "Emily, would you come to dinner at our place tonight? The kids would love to hear some stories about when I was little." Emily shook her head vigorously. "I can't, Mr. Michael. I can't show up at your house like this, dirty and ragged. What will people think?" "People will think I'm welcoming a very special friend." Michael stood and offered her his hand. "Come on, Emily. At least for a hot shower and a decent meal." Emma, Ethan, and Lily exchanged knowing glances. There was something about this woman that stirred their natural childhood compassion. "Please, Aunt Emily," Lily said sweetly. "Come have dinner with us." The nickname Aunt hit Emily hard. It had been years since anyone had called her something so affectionate. She looked at Michael, who waited patiently for an answer. "All right, but just for today." She finally gave in. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, back to the story. The drive to Michael's house was quiet. Emily sat in the front seat of the imported car, careful not to touch anything so she wouldn't dirty it. The children whispered in the back seat, asking questions that their parents answered in hushed tones. Michael's mansion was in the Upper East Side, one of the most upscale areas of New York City. Emily's stomach twisted as the automatic gate opened. That world of luxury reminded her of her own miserable circumstances. "Emily, you don't need to feel uncomfortable." Michael noticed her tension. This house has seen much sadder days than today. As they stepped inside, Emily was immediately struck by the elegant yet welcoming decor. Photos of the children were scattered everywhere, but she noticed a kind-looking brunette woman in many of them. That was Mommy. Emma followed Emily's gaze. She isn't with us anymore. Emma, Michael gently scolded. It's okay, Mr. Michael. Emily crouched to the little girl's level. Your mom was very beautiful, Emma. I'm sure she loved you so much. She did, Ethan chimed in. She made the best chocolate cake in the whole world. Lily stayed quiet but moved closer to Emily, taking her dirty hand in her own clean little ones. Miss Emily, would you like me to show you the bathroom so you can freshen up? Michael interrupted the emotional moment. Of course, thank you. The guest bathroom was bigger than any place Emily had lived in for years. She stared at her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Her blonde hair was dull and tangled, her face too thin, her eyes lacking the spark they once had. When she came down for dinner, the table was set with fine china and an array of dishes. It had been so long since she'd seen such abundance. Sit here next to me, Aunt Emily. Lily pulled out the chair beside hers. During dinner, Michael told the children stories from his childhood, always emphasizing how important Emily had been in his life. She ate slowly, savoring every bite, and trying not to show her ravenous hunger. Emily, tell me what happened, Michael asked once the children went upstairs to brush their teeth. How did you end up like this? Emily took a deep breath. It was a long and painful story. After your parents let me go when you turned 10, I managed to find some housekeeping jobs, but they never lasted long. I didn't have an education, you know, and without solid references. What about your family? Your parents? The question hit Emily like a punch to the gut. She lowered her eyes to her empty plate. My parents left me in Union Square when I was 7, Mr. Michael. They said they were going to buy a bagel and never came back. I grew up on the streets until I got that job at your house. Michael was silent for a long moment. He'd always known Emily was too young to be a nanny, but he'd never imagined she'd been abandoned herself. That's why you were so good with me, he murmured. You understood what it felt like to be alone. I was afraid you'd feel abandoned when your parents traveled, Emily admitted. I knew how much it hurt. Daddy, can I come down for a minute? Emma appeared at the stairs in her pajamas. Of course, sweetheart. Emma approached the table shyly. Aunt Emily, Daddy said you don't have a place to live, is that true? Emily looked at Michael, who simply nodded, encouraging her to be honest. It's true, Emma. Sometimes life gets hard for adults too. Then you can stay here with us, Emma exclaimed as if it were the most obvious solution in the world. Emma, it's not that simple, Michael tried to explain. Why not, Daddy? The house is big, there's an extra room, and Aunt Emily seems really nice. Ethan and Lily came downstairs to join the conversation. It was clear the three of them had planned this. Daddy, you always say our house needs more joy, Ethan argued, and that Mommy would want us to help people in need, Lily added in her small voice. Michael looked at Emily, who was visibly moved by the children's spontaneity. What do you think, Emily? Would you stay here as our housekeeper? Take care of the house and the kids when I have to travel for work? Emily felt the world spin. It was too good to be true. Mr. Michael, I can't accept such charity. It's not charity, it's work. Fair pay, a home, food, and a chance to start over. The children watched her expectantly. How could she refuse those hopeful little eyes? I need to think. That's fine. Michael understood. How about staying here tonight and giving me your answer tomorrow? That night, Emily slept in a clean, soft bed for the first time in months. But sleep didn't come easily. Her mind buzzed with possibilities and fears. What if Michael gave up on her like everyone else? What if she grew attached to the kids only to be sent away? In the next room, Michael was also awake, staring at the ceiling. Emily's presence in the house had stirred memories of his own childhood. He remembered clearly how she had comforted him when he cried from missing his parents. Now it was his turn to repay her. The next morning, Emily woke to the smell of fresh coffee. She went downstairs and found the three children eating breakfast alone. Good morning, Aunt Emily, Lily cheered. Good morning, kids. Where's your dad? He had to leave early for a meeting, Emma explained. But he left a note for you. Emily unfolded the paper and read, Emily, I need you to know my offer wasn't out of pity. It was gratitude. You taught me what genuine care was when I was a child. Today, my kids need to learn that same lesson. If you stay, you'll be doing me a favor, not the other way around. Michael. So, Aunt Emily, will you stay with us? Ethan asked eagerly. Emily looked at those three children who had already lost so much and saw in them a chance to rewrite her own story of abandonment. I'll stay, she said finally. The children's joyful shouts echoed through the house. Emily's first days in the Anderson home were an adjustment. Michael had given her full freedom to organize the children's routine, and she discovered each had their own quirks. Emma, the oldest, was responsible and studious, but carried the weight of trying to be the woman of the house since her mother left. Ethan was sensitive and artistic, but had recurring nightmares. Lily, the youngest, seemed the happiest, but Emily noticed she avoided talking about her mother. Aunt Emily, why did my mommy leave? Lily asked one night, as Emily tidied her room. The question caught Emily off guard. How do you explain to a 6-year-old heart something even adults don't fully understand? Sometimes special people have to go where we can't visit them, Lily. But the love they have for us stays right here. Emily touched the girl's chest. Right inside. How do you know that? Because I also had to learn to keep love in my heart when I was little. Lily hugged her tightly, and Emily felt something heal inside her. Maybe helping these children process their losses would help her face her own. Michael came home late from work most days. He owned a successful construction company, but Emily noticed he used work as an escape from his pain. When he was home, he was a present and loving father, but she could see the sadness he tried to hide from the children. How was your day? He always asked when he arrived. Emma had a math test and did really well. Ethan is painting a beautiful piece in art class, and Lily finally ate all her vegetables at lunch. Emily always shared the small victories of the day. Michael smiled with relief. It had been months since he'd seen the children so well cared for and happy. One night, Emily was in the kitchen preparing the children's snacks for the next day when she heard screams coming from Ethan's room. She rushed upstairs and found the boy in the middle of a nightmare. Ethan, wake up, it's okay. Emily gently shook him. The boy opened his eyes, frightened, his breath ragged, his face wet with sweat and tears. Aunt Emily, I dreamed you were leaving too, he sobbed. Emily felt her heart break. She sat on the edge of the bed and pulled Ethan into her lap. Ethan, look at me. She waited for him to calm down. I promise I won't leave. I promise. But Mommy also promised she'd get better and... Ethan, I know it's hard to trust after we lose someone we love. Emily spoke softly. But I know this pain, understand? I was also left behind when I was little. Ethan stared at her with wide eyes. Really? Really? And I promise I'd never do that to you because I know how much it hurts. The boy hugged her tightly and fell asleep right there in her arms. Emily stayed until she was sure he was sleeping peacefully, then laid him down and tucked him in. When she turned to leave the room, she found Michael in the doorway, watching the scene. Thank you, he whispered. I didn't know how to help him with the nightmares. Children need to feel safe to process their loss, Emily explained as they walked to the living room. Ethan is very sensitive. He notices everything. And you? How did you deal with your own nightmares as a child? Emily stopped walking. No one had ever cared about her childhood nightmares. I learned that sometimes you have to be strong on your own. No one should have to be strong alone, Emily. Michael looked into her eyes. Especially not a child. There was something in his tone that made Emily feel an emotion she hadn't experienced in a long time. It was the feeling of being seen, of being understood. Mr. Michael, can I ask you something? Of course, and you can stop calling me Mr. We're friends. What was it like for you? Losing your wife? Michael sat on the couch and gestured for her to join him. It was like a part of me had been torn away. Jennifer had been sick for 2 years, but I always believed she'd get better. When it happened, I didn't know how to explain it to the children. You did the best you could. I don't know. I think I hid in my work and let them deal with the pain alone until you came here. The children know you love them, Michael. That's already so much. They talked late into the night. Emily realized Michael was very different from the boy she'd known years ago. He was kind, intelligent, and clearly a devoted father, despite his own wounds. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. 2 weeks after Emily's arrival, Michael got a call that would change everything. "Michael, it's me, Rebecca." His sister-in-law's voice sounded tense on the other end. "Hi, Rebecca. Is everything okay?" "No, it's not okay. I heard you hired a housekeeper without consulting me." Michael sighed. Rebecca, his late wife's sister, had been meddling in the children's upbringing ever since Jennifer passed. "Rebecca, I don't need to consult anyone about decisions in my own home. Michael, you have 3 children to raise. You can't just bring a stranger to live with you." "Emily isn't a stranger. She took care of me when I was a child. That was over 20 years ago. You know nothing about her life since then." Michael looked into the living room where Emily was helping Emma with her homework, while Ethan drew beside them and Lily played with her dolls. The scene carried a harmony he hadn't seen in a long time. "Rebecca, the kids are fine. Emily is doing an excellent job. Michael, I'm coming over tomorrow. I need to see this situation with my own eyes." When Michael hung up, Emily noticed his worried expression. "Did something happen?" "My sister-in-law is visiting tomorrow. She's complicated. If you think it's best, I can leave during her visit." "No." Michael was firm. "You're part of this household now. Rebecca will have to accept that." The next day, Rebecca arrived in the late afternoon. She was an elegant, well-dressed woman, but her expression was permanently stern. She scrutinized Emily from head to toe the moment she stepped inside. "So, you're the famous housekeeper," she said without greeting. "I'm Emily Johnson. Nice to meet you." Emily extended her hand, but Rebecca ignored it. "Kids, come say hello to Aunt Rebecca," Michael called. Emma, Ethan, and Lily hurried downstairs, but Emily noticed they didn't show the same excitement they did when Michael came home. "Hello, Aunt Rebecca," Emma greeted politely. "Emma, sweetheart, are you okay, being well taken care of?" Rebecca's voice was sugary, but she eyed Emily sideways. "I'm great. Aunt Emily is really nice. She helps me with homework and makes the best sandwich in the world." "How wonderful, dear," Rebecca replied with a forced smile. During dinner, Rebecca fired a series of intrusive questions at Emily, clearly trying to unsettle her. "And where did you live before coming here, Emily?" "I was between jobs." "Ah, I see. And your family? Your parents?" Emily's chest tightened. Michael noticed her discomfort. "Rebecca, how about we talk about something else?" "Michael, it's important to know the people around our children." "My parents abandoned me when I was little," Emily answered with dignity. "I grew up alone." Rebecca seemed satisfied at having drawn out a painful confession. "How sad. That must have been very hard." "It was." Emily offered no further details. After dinner, while the children watched TV, Rebecca pulled Michael aside for a private talk in the study. "Michael, have you lost your mind? You brought a homeless woman into your home." "Rebecca, stop this. You know nothing about this woman. She could have addictions, illnesses, a criminal record. Emily is a good person. I trust her." "You trust her because you're lonely, Michael. 2 years alone with 3 kids? I get it. But that doesn't mean you should risk my nieces and nephew's safety. Your nieces and nephew are safe and happy. For now. And when she decides to leave, how will you explain another loss to them?" The question struck Michael hard. It was the same fear he tried not to dwell on. "Rebecca, you're overreacting." "Am I?" "Michael, if you don't reconsider this situation, I'll have to take action." "What kind of action?" "There are institutions that protect children's welfare, Michael. If I prove they're in an unsuitable environment..." A cold anger rose in Michael's chest. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm trying to protect Emma, Ethan, and Lily. Someone has to." Rebecca left that night, but she left behind a tense atmosphere. In the days that followed, Emily noticed a shift in Michael's behavior. He was more distant, more observant. A week later, Michael came home with a worried expression. "Emily, we need to talk." Her stomach twisted. She recognized that tone. It was the same one her former employers used before letting her go. Of course. Rebecca hired a private investigator to look into your past. Emily felt her world collapse. She sank heavily into the kitchen chair. And what did he find? I don't know yet. But Emily, if there's anything you haven't told me, anything that could jeopardize you staying here. Michael, I've never done anything wrong in my life, Emily interrupted. The only crime I committed was being born into a family that didn't want me. I know, I'm sorry, it's just that you're afraid I'll leave and hurt your children, Emily finished. Michael fell silent. That was exactly it. Emily, it's not that I don't trust you, I just have to protect my kids. I understand, Emily said, standing up. And I respect that. Maybe it's best if I find another place to stay, before that investigator digs up something that could harm you all. No, Michael protested. That's not what I want. But it's the sensible thing to do. Just then, Ethan walked into the kitchen for water. Why are you talking so seriously? He asked innocently. Emily and Michael exchanged glances. It's nothing, Ethan, go to bed. But Ethan was too sensitive not to notice the tension. He walked upstairs slowly, and Emily knew this wouldn't be the last time he'd ask about that conversation. The next morning, Emily woke early and made breakfast as usual. But when Michael came down, she had made up her mind. Michael, I'm going to look for an apartment to rent today. Emily, you don't have to be so drastic. Yes, I do. Your children need stability, and as long as I'm here, your sister-in-law will keep causing trouble. Emma, Ethan, and Lily came down for breakfast and immediately sensed the tension. Dad, is Aunt Emily leaving? Emma asked bluntly. Emma, do you think we're stupid? Ethan cut in. We know when adults are hiding things. Lily began to cry softly. I knew Aunt Emily would leave too, she sobbed. Emily knelt in front of Lily and cupped her little face in her hands. Lily, I'm not leaving because I don't love you. I'm leaving because I love you so much. Sometimes when we love people, we have to make hard choices to protect them. That doesn't make sense, Ethan shouted. If you love us, you have to stay. Ethan, Michael scolded. No, Dad. Aunt Rebecca came here and said awful things about Aunt Emily, and now you want her to leave. Just like what happened with Mom. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan had put into words the fear they all felt, but no one dared to voice. Ethan, what happened with Mom was different. Was it? Emma surprised everyone by confronting her father. Dad, ever since Aunt Emily came, we've started smiling for real again. Ethan stopped having nightmares, Lily started eating properly, and I stopped feeling like I had to take care of everyone. Michael looked at his children with painful realization. He'd been so focused on protecting them that he hadn't noticed how much they'd healed with Emily there. What if we don't let her leave? Lily suggested with childlike logic. It doesn't work that way, sweetheart, Emily explained gently. Then let's make it work, Ethan declared with determination. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers so much. Now, continuing. That same day, while Emily went out to look for apartments, the children organized a secret meeting in Emma's room. We need a plan, Emma declared with the seriousness of an adult. What kind of plan? Ethan asked. A plan to show everyone that Aunt Emily needs to stay here with us. And how are we going to do that? Lily wanted to know. Emma thought for a moment. First, we'll find out what Aunt Rebecca is planning. Then we'll show Daddy he's making a mistake. But how? I heard Aunt Rebecca talking on the phone with someone about an investigator. If we find out what that investigator uncovered, maybe we can help Aunt Emily. Ethan and Lily looked at Emma with admiration. She always had the best ideas. But how are we going to find that out? Leave it to me, Emma smiled mischievously. Meanwhile, Emily drove around the city looking for a place to live. But with each apartment she visited, her heart grew heavier. She had grown attached to that family faster than she ever thought possible. When she returned home in the late afternoon, she found Michael waiting in the living room with a serious expression. Emily, we need to talk. She sat on the couch, prepared to hear that it would be best for her to leave immediately. The investigator Rebecca hired sent me a report today. Emily closed her eyes. There it was, the end of yet another fresh start. He found out some things about your past that I didn't know. Michael, I can explain. Let me finish. Michael gently interrupted. He discovered you were raised in a shelter from the age of 8 to 16, that you worked in several homes as a maid and nanny, that you've never had a criminal record, never used drugs, never had any trouble with the law. Emily opened her eyes, confused. Then why do you look so serious? Because I also found out you lied to me. Emily's heart raced. What do you mean? You told me your parents abandoned you when you were 7. In reality, they left you when you were 5. Emily blinked several times, processing the information. And I also found out you saved part of your salary for years to take a technical course in administration, which you completed 3 years ago. Michael, I don't understand where you're going with this. I'm getting to the fact that you're much stronger and more determined than you think, and that you were afraid to tell me about your studies because you thought I'd assume you wanted a better job. Emily stayed silent. That was exactly what she had feared. Emily, you're not just a housekeeper here. You're part of this family, and families don't abandon each other. But your sister-in-law... My sister-in-law will have to accept it. Today I told her that if she tries to interfere with my children's upbringing again, she won't be welcome in this house anymore. You did that for me? I did it for us, for this family we've built together. The children who had been eavesdropping on the stairs came running down. Does that mean Aunt Emily gets to stay? Lily asked hopefully. If she wants to. Michael looked at Emily. I want to, Emily answered without hesitation. I really do. The group hug that followed was the warmest any of them had experienced in a long time, but the peace didn't last. A week later, Rebecca showed up at the house accompanied by a social worker. Michael, this is Mrs. Sarah Williams from Child Protective Services, Rebecca announced smugly. Michael felt his blood run cold. Rebecca had made good on her threat. Mr. Anderson, we received an anonymous complaint about possible neglect in the children's care, the social worker explained. I need to assess the family situation. What kind of complaint? Michael asked, though he already knew the answer. Information that there's a person with a questionable background living in the same home as the children. Emily, who was in the kitchen, overheard the conversation and felt her world crumble again. She knew her suspicions would be confirmed. She would always be seen as a threat because of her origins. Miss Sarah, may I introduce Emily Johnson, our housekeeper? Michael called Emily over with a firm voice. Emily approached with dignity despite her racing heart. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Sarah. Emily, I need to ask you a few questions. It's standard procedure. Of course. How long have you worked here? About a month. And what's your prior experience with children? Before Emily could answer, Emma appeared in the room. Miss Sarah, Aunt Emily took care of my dad when he was little. She knows a lot about kids. Emma, let the adults talk. Michael tried to intervene. No, Dad. We want to speak too. Ethan came downstairs with Lily. The social worker looked at the children with interest. Do you like Emily? We love her, Lily answered immediately. She helps us with homework, makes delicious food, and never yells at us when we make a mess, Ethan added. And she understands when we're sad about Mom, Emma finished. Miss Sarah observed the interaction between Emily and the children for a few minutes. The mutual affection between them was evident. Mr. Anderson, may I see the children's rooms? Of course. During the tour of the house, the social worker took notes on her clipboard. The children followed the group, eager to show how well cared for they were. Look how tidy my room is, Lily said proudly. Aunt Emily taught me how to organize my things. And she helped me make this drawing here, Ethan pointed to a framed picture on the wall. Emma showed her school grades, which had improved significantly since Emily's arrival. After an hour of evaluation, Miss Sarah met with Michael and Emily in the living room, while Rebecca waited nervously. Mr. Anderson, I found no signs of neglect or mistreatment. The children seem healthy, happy, and well cared for. The social worker began. Rebecca paled. But Miss Sarah, the issue isn't whether they're fine now. It's whether it's safe to keep someone with a background. Ma'am, I've read the private investigator's report. Miss Emily has no criminal record. In fact, her history shows a hard-working and determined person. Ms. Sarah interrupted. "Emily, may I ask what motivated you to work here?" The social worker addressed her. "Ms. Sarah, I was abandoned as a child. I know what it's like to grow up without a family's love. These children lost their mother, but they still have a chance to be loved and cared for. I want to be part of that." "And you, Mr. Anderson, how do you feel about this arrangement?" "Ms. Sarah, since Emily arrived, my children have started smiling again. They sleep peacefully, eat well, do their homework without complaining. She's brought peace to this home." The social worker made a few final notes. "My assessment is that the children are in a safe and healthy environment. There's no reason for Child Protective Services to intervene." Rebecca looked visibly frustrated. "Ms. Sarah, but..." "Ma'am, filing false reports is a crime. I suggest you reconsider your actions." Ms. Sarah was firm. After the social worker left, Rebecca glared at Michael angrily. "This isn't over, Michael." "Yes, it is, Rebecca. And if you keep trying to harm this family, you'll be the one with problems." "This family?" Rebecca laughed scornfully. "Michael, you're fooling yourself. This woman will leave as soon as a better opportunity comes along." "I won't." Emily spoke for the first time, surprising her sister-in-law. "I won't leave because this is my family now. You think you can replace my sister? I don't want to replace anyone." Emily took a deep breath. "Jennifer will always be these children's mother. I just want to take care of them and help them honor her memory by being happy." Rebecca looked at Emily with an expression that mixed surprise and something that seemed like respect. "Do you really believe that?" "I do, and I'll prove it every day." Rebecca fell silent for a moment, as if reassessing the whole situation. I just don't want them to suffer anymore." "Neither do I." Emily stepped closer to Rebecca. "That's why I'm here, so they never feel abandoned again." Something shifted in Rebecca's expression then. The anger gave way to deep sadness. "My sister made me promise I'd take care of the kids if anything happened to her. I thought I was keeping that promise by trying to push you away." "You were trying to protect them. I understand that." Emily spoke gently. "But they don't need protection from me. They need love, and that's what I have to give." Michael watched the conversation between the two women with a mix of relief and admiration. Emily had disarmed Rebecca with her sincerity. Can I give this a chance?" Rebecca asked hesitantly. "Of course," Emily smiled. "The kids need Aunt Rebecca too. Were you two very close?" "We were. Jennifer was my little sister. I always protected her. Then you can help me know her better, so I can talk about her to the kids in a way that honors her." Rebecca seemed moved by the offer. "You'd do that?" "Of course. Jennifer is part of this family's story. I don't want to erase that. I want to honor it." That night, after Rebecca left with a completely different attitude, Michael and Emily talked on the porch. "You were amazing today," Michael said. "I just told the truth." "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Aren't you afraid of getting too attached to us and then getting hurt?" Emily chuckled softly. "Michael, I'm already attached. From the first day when Lily called me Aunt Emily, when Ethan told me about his nightmares, when Emma showed me her grades, and when you looked at me like I was someone who matters. You do matter. A lot. I know. And you all matter to me too. That's why I'm not leaving, no matter what happens. Promise?" "I promise." They fell silent for a moment, looking at the moonlit garden. "Emily, can I confess something?" "Go ahead." "When I was a kid and you took care of me, I used to dream you were my big sister, someone who'd always be there to protect me. And now?" Michael looked at her with an expression Emily couldn't quite decipher. "Now I dream of other things." Before she could ask what he meant, Emma appeared on the porch. "Dad, Lily can't sleep. She wants Aunt Emily to sing her a song." "Of course I'll go." Emily stood up right away. As she went upstairs to soothe Lily, Emma stayed on the porch with her father. "Dad, do you like Aunt Emily?" "Of course I do, sweetheart. She takes such good care of you all." "No, Dad. Do you like her the way you liked Mom?" Michael was speechless. How do you explain to an 11-year-old feelings he was still trying to understand himself? Emma, why are you asking that? Because I see how you look at her, and I see how she looks at you when she thinks no one's watching. And how does she look at me? The same way Mom used to. Michael's chest tightened. Emma was right, but he wasn't sure he was ready to admit it. Dad, do you think it would be wrong to like Aunt Emily that way? No, honey, it wouldn't be wrong. But it's complicated. Why? Because you lost Mom not long ago, and because I don't know if Aunt Emily feels the same way. Dad, you could just ask her. Michael laughed despite the seriousness of the conversation. It's not that simple, Emma. Why do adults make everything so complicated? Emma sighed. If you like each other, just admit it and be done with it. Emma, what do you and your siblings think about the idea of me and Aunt Emily? Being together? Emma finished. Dad, we've already talked about this. We'd love it if you were a real couple. You've talked about this? Of course. Ethan said it would be nice to have a mum again. Lily said Aunt Emily already takes care of us like she's our mum anyway, and I said you're happier when she's around. Michael was impressed by his children's maturity. What else did you say? That if you two get together, no one will ever be able to split up our family. At that moment, Emily came down the stairs. Lily's asleep, she announced softly. Aunt Emily, do you like my dad? Emma asked bluntly. Emma, Michael protested. What? Someone needs to figure this out already. Emily looked from Michael to Emma, clearly unsure how to respond. Emma, that's an adult matter. But we're part of this family too. We have a right to know. Emily sat beside Emma and took her hands. Emma, I care about your dad very much. He's a good man, a wonderful father, and he's been so kind to me when I needed it most. But do you like him like a girlfriend likes a boyfriend? Emily blushed and glanced at Michael, who was clearly embarrassed but curious to hear the answer. Emma, sometimes adult feelings are complicated. We need time to understand them properly. So you need more time? Maybe. How much time? Emma, that's enough questions, Michael interjected. Leave Aunt Emily alone. Fine, but don't take too long because we already want to plan the wedding. Both Michael and Emily laughed at the girl's spontaneity. Go to bed, Emma. School tomorrow. Good night, Dad. Good night, Aunt Emily. Emma kissed them both and went upstairs. Once she was gone, Michael and Emily were alone again, but now with a different tension in the air. Sorry about Emma, she's very direct. Don't apologize. She just wants to see you happy. And you, what do you want, Emily? Emily took a long time to answer. It was a question she'd asked herself many times over the past few weeks. I want to belong somewhere, Michael. For the first time in my life, I want to wake up without fear that someone will send me away. You belong here, you know that, right? I do, but sometimes I'm afraid of wanting more than I should. Michael moved closer to her on the couch. More like what? More like dreaming that one day this family could really be mine, not just as an employee, but as... She stopped, unable to continue. As a real part of it? Yeah. Michael took Emily's hand and looked into her eyes. Emily, you're already part of this family, and if it's up to me, you always will be. Even if I admit that sometimes I dream of things a housekeeper shouldn't dream of. What kind of things? Emily took a deep breath, gathering courage. Things like waking up in this house every day, like watching the kids grow up, like being by your side not just as a friend, but as a real partner. Michael's heart raced. Emily, I know it's crazy. You lost the love of your life not long ago. I'm a woman with no past, no family. Stop. Michael cut her off. You're not a woman with no past. You're a woman who built her own story despite all the hardships. And family. He glanced toward the stairs where the children slept. Family is what we build with love, not what we inherit by blood. You really believe that? I do. And I also believe Jennifer would be happy knowing I found someone who loves our children as much as she did. How can you be so sure? Because I knew her. And she always said the most important thing was that the kids felt loved. It didn't matter by whom. Emily felt her eyes well up. Michael, I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared of ruining this. Scared I won't be good enough. Scared of falling hopelessly in love with this family and then finding out it was all a mistake. Michael lifted his free hand and gently touched Emily's face. What if I told you I'm scared too? Of what? Of admitting I've fallen for you. Of admitting that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want to see is your smile. Of admitting that coming home to you caring for my kids as if they were your own is what makes me happiest. Emily closed her eyes, savoring the softness of Michael's touch. Michael. Emily. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I know I want to find out by your side. When she opened her eyes, Michael was closer than ever. For a moment, the world around them faded. There were only the two of them and the connection they'd built over those weeks. Can I try something? Michael whispered. Emily simply nodded. The kiss was gentle, careful, full of unspoken promises. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. This changes everything, doesn't it? Emily asked softly. It does, but for the better. What about the kids? The kids will be thrilled. Emma's already planning our wedding. Michael laughed. Wedding? Emily's eyes widened. Slow down. Let's take it one step at a time. Michael chuckled. First, let's get used to the idea of being a couple. A couple, Emily repeated, savoring the words. That sounds nice. It sounds perfect. They stayed wrapped in each other's arms on the couch late into the night, talking about the future, their fears, their dreams. For the first time in their lives, both Michael and Emily felt whole. The next morning, the kids came down for breakfast and immediately noticed something had changed. Michael and Emily exchanged different looks, smiles more frequent. Dad, are you and Aunt Emily together now? Ethan asked bluntly. Michael and Emily glanced at each other, laughing at the boy's perceptiveness. What do you think about that? Michael asked. We think it's great, Lily cheered, clapping. Finally. Emma sighed dramatically. You two are so slow. Does that mean Aunt Emily will be our real mom now? Ethan wondered. Ethan, your mom will always be Jennifer, Emily explained gently. I'll be like a second mom, someone who loves you and wants to take care of you always. Like the grandma we never had, Lily suggested. More like a good stepmom, like in the fairy tales with happy endings, Emma corrected. I just like Mom Emily, Ethan declared. Emily's heart swelled with a happiness she'd never known before. For the first time in her life, she had a real family. The months that followed were full of adjustments and discoveries. Michael and Emily learned to navigate the challenges of building a relationship while raising 3 kids. It wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. Rebecca became a valuable ally, helping Emily learn more about Jennifer's story and supporting the new family dynamic. She admitted she'd misjudged Emily too quickly and became a constant, loving presence in the children's lives. Emily, can I tell you something? Rebecca said one day during a family lunch. Of course. I was wrong about you, completely wrong. Rebecca, you were just trying to protect the kids, I understand. No, it was more than that. I was afraid you'd make them forget Jennifer. And now I see you've done the opposite. You helped them honor her memory by being happy again. Emily Johnson smiled tearfully. Jennifer will always be part of this family, Rebecca. I just want to add love, not replace anything. And that's exactly what you're doing. A year after their reunion in Union Square, Michael surprised Emily with an unexpected question. Emily, will you marry me? She looked at him, at the 3 children jumping with joy in the background, at the house that had become their home, and smiled with all the love in her heart. Yes, of course I will. The wedding was simple but heartfelt. Emma was the maid of honor, Ethan the ring bearer, and Lily the flower girl. Rebecca cried with emotion, seeing the genuine happiness on her nieces' and nephews' faces. During the ceremony, Emily glanced at the altar decorated with photos of Jennifer and knew she would have approved of this union. It wasn't a replacement, but a continuation of love. The end. Now we want to know your thoughts on this touching story. Do you think Emily made the right choice by accepting her place in this family? How would you have reacted in her shoes? Share your honest opinion in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartfelt tales like this one.